All right, Shalom. We're going to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, double honor to the apostles and others of Great Millstone. Peace and safety to the sincere Akim within and without this person's truth, and the Akwath as well. We're down here in downtown St. Louis. We're in front of this Dred Scott court case. And, I mean, the court place where the court case happened. And we're going to go into the history of it. Let me just pan the camera. That's the courtroom. Right there. Okay. This is on Broadway downtown, and street over is the Dred Scott Way. So basically, what we're gonna do is just touch on the history a little bit, and many more, because the so-called white man has hell to pay, dealing with everything that he did to us, and they got monuments set up different parts of the city and across the world of all the hell that they had put on us. Now in this case, we're gonna go into Dred Scott. A lot of Jakes might know. In fact, February is coming up, so his name gonna be brought up again, I'm sure. He was basically a Israelite, a so-called black man who was a slave, and his slave owners had him for a while, but because they had to keep traveling, they eventually had passed him down to like his aunt, the slave owners, like aunts or other family members, is like, look, y'all, you gonna be with them for a while. And he happened to be in Missouri, in St. Louis, or whatever the case is, wherever he was. And the argument was that when he'd been here for so long, and at the time the area he was staying in was a free state, a so-called free state for slaves. So what had happened was, when it was time for his slaves owners to bring them back, he tried to fight it. He said, look, I've been on this land for so long, I deserve my freedom. And he even tried to buy it, right? But in the end, the so-called white man denied him because they basically said, you're an inferior human being. You don't have the right to, buy your own freedom or just be in the court. That shows you how this devil is. Because that goes to show you, man, that we ain't got our people that have no power. And this happened, and it was on March 6, 1857. If I'm off, we're gonna correct it in the article. But that was like a little bit over 100 years ago. And a lot of our people think the 1800s was a long time ago. No, that's down the corner, man. That's like yesterday to the average so-called white man. All right, you got so-called white people who's living today, who their fathers, right, lived in that time of slavery. They actually seen slaves. They probably own some. So the point is, man, no matter how much time progresses, we're not going to be free unless the Lord give up. Verse. About 15 years.
It's Deuteronomy 28:15. It says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes which I commanded thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
All these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. And everything always goes back to the curses. Because when you wake up to know you're an Israelite, there has to be an explanation. And before you wake up to the Israelites, and you just got that zeal, you're like, look, there has to be an explanation for all the hell we catch. There has to be a reason why we can't amount to anything in the society, though we're the smartest, most talented people, and how every time, corner we hit, there's a wall right there blocking us from prospering, from getting the hell out of here, right? The so-called white man putting the hell on you. And Dred Scott was just another case. And you got that article? Go ahead and read it. So we're going to read what it got to say. And we got like two more too, because there's another part that I want to bring up, which is called the People versus Hall. In this case, it was with a so-called Chinese man versus a so-called white man. But the so-called white man, in his court systems, he had the same rules set up. Basically saying, look, you're an inferior human being. You don't have the right to speak, or you can't buy your own salvation.
This article is from history.com. It says is entitled Dred Scott Decision. It says, Introduction. The Dred Scott decision was the culmination of the case of Dred Scott versus Sanford.
Speak up.
It says, one of the most controversial events preceding the Civil War in March 1857 The Supreme Court issued its decision in that case, which had been brought before the court by Dred Scott, a slave who had lived with his owner in a free state before returning to the slave state of Missouri. Scott argued that time spent in a free state entitled him to emancipation, but the court decided that no black, free or slave could claim U.S. citizenship.
Now, we'll read that again. So that's the attitude of the so-called white man. Here it is. This man was making a brilliant case. He said, look, I've been living in free land for so long, I ought to be considered as one of these, free slaves. And the damn devils, the slave owners was like, no, we gonna fight this. You gonna come back with me, you're still my property. I still got your papers, all right? You're still mine, right? So this is a Jake who's really trying to fight for his freedom, right, from this damn devil. And the case was such a, like the article said, it was such a big controversial event. That's why, it's known now. And they got the damn court case where it all happened, right down here. Still the same damn case. Now read that again.
Read all of them.
Yeah, you can read it from the top.
So introduction, the Dred Scott decision was the culmination of the case of Dred Scott versus Sanford, one of the most controversial events preceding the Civil War in March 1857. The Supreme Court issued its decision in that case, which had been brought before the court by Dred Scott, a slave who had lived with his owner in a free state before returning to the slave state of Missouri.
Because that was what's happening. That slave master was like, all right, it's time for you to come back. I finished my business. And he was like, no, I want to be free,
Scott argued that time spent in a free state entitled him to emancipation. But the court decided that no black, free, or slave could claim U.S. citizenship.
Look at that. No blacks, free or slave, could claim citizenship. So what does that tell you? In 1850s, you weren't considered an American citizen. The so-called white man said you cannot be an American citizen. Why? Because he's the devil. Yet you Jakes want to be proud. You want to claim you're African American. You want to say, look, you Latinos, you want to be like, look, this is my country too. You want to say this is my country too. You weren't even allowed to claim citizenship until probably the early 1900s. So what does that tell you? That this devil never wanted you to even be a citizen. Now, the Jake, when he went to the courts, he was actually trying to, he studied the law. If you read it, he actually studied the law. All right. If you go into details, he was actually hitting those points with those laws. All right, with their own books. And the so-called white man, he was probably so, flabbergasted and dumbfounded that this guy actually can read, right, or study the books. That instead of using his own law to uplift it, he just said, you know what, you a black. You don't have the right to claim citizenship. I don't care what you got to say. All right, they're going to show you the attitude of this damn devil.
It says, and therefore blacks were unable to petition the court for their freedom.
Look at that. Blacks were unable to petition the court for their freedom. All right, give me you still got the scriptures? You jump to 28, 30, 60. And you know what?
Deuteronomy 28:68.
Mind you, this is in the books. If you went into that damn building, they're going to have the same writings on there. We're not making this up. The so-called white man said in those times that an Israelite, you are not allowed to claim citizenship or buy your own freedom or claim to be free. What does that tell you, man? And you're still a slave today, all right? You got all these people making these sites. You got Jakes, right? They want to talk about we got to get white supremacists out the seats. We got to get Phil from their Vice show. No matter how much he exposes the devil, he still turns around to say we got to get the white supremacists out the seat. That's never gonna happen. You're supposed to want the Lord to come back. That's the only way things gonna change. Because really, we all a bunch of Dred Scotts, all right? This devil would not let us go, okay?
Say something. Because you're supposed to look at all of them like that, you know? It's not, okay, majority of them think that way, or it's not all of them, not every single one. Even if they don't express it, that's still in their heart.
Yeah.
When shit hits the fan or push come to shove, they will express that hatred towards you, man.
Exactly.
Or that disdain towards you.
And we brought this up in last camp, and you had said it. You got like these high-level elites, right, or the ones in the higher seat, like Donald Trump. He's not just gonna come out and say, "Look, I don't like you niggas, and I don't like you spics." But the average peon, they're the ones that's voicing. That's the voice of them. The ones that basically ain't got nothing to lose in this society. They're nobodies. They're gonna express their hatred for you. That's the voice of the so-called white man. They're not allowed to just come out and say it, even though they can and get away with it, but they don't want that much of an uproar. So these the peons or the lower level Edomites, when they come out and say a whole bunch of racist stuff against you, the cops are racist, the cops killing people off racist, that's them expressing. They're allowing them to express what they feel on the inside, which is why all the cops get off. Why do you think the cops get off? It just so happened that every single judge in those court cases were white supremacists. They are all like that, man. You know, when they go to court, they know they finna get out, man. You know, they probably talk before the damn court case any damn way. They probably talk before this damn court case anyway. The judge and the slave owner of Dred Scott probably already talked this out. Like, look, I got a lot of cotton to be picked, or I got a lot of work. That's my slave. I want her back. And that judge is probably like, look, don't worry, we'll take care of you. We got you. We just got to do it in a proper way, right? To make it seem like that we were being fair. But how is that fair? This man came to you with the books, quoting your own law. Like, look, I ought to be free. You completely denied that and just said, look, man, I ain't trying to hear that. You a Negro. You can't even, you're not allowed to be free. All right? That's the attitude of the fucking devil, which is the so-called white man.
And even the lowest of the low, man, they still think that way, man.
Still think that.
That's why the lowest of the low that live in the Bible Belt, they hardly see so-called Negroes, and when they do, you know what I'm saying, you could just peep it out. They might have like a sticker, a Confederate sticker, or a flag around their house. That is a symbolism of the downfall of you so-called mainly so-called Negroes, man. And that's how they feel.
Yeah, if they got American flag on their roof, they're racist. All of them are. I don't give a damn because you work with one and y'all go to lunch and she don't express it. Let your job be versus her. She's gonna get your ass out, man. She's gonna make up a lie to get you out, you know, to look out, cover her own ass. Oh, go ahead.
It says, Deuteronomy 28 and 68 says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ship by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
Exactly. Egypt represents bondage, right? And from Jerusalem to Egypt, you could walk there. You didn't have to take a boat. So it's talking about a new Egypt, or the house of bondage, which is America. And he said, you're going to be sold as slaves, and no man shall buy you or redeem you. Meaning no man shall redeem you. No other nation has said, look, them Israelites catching hell, let's go and buy each one of them and get them a land. Oh, hell no. And it said, no man shall buy you. He couldn't even buy his own freedom. He literally tried to buy his own freedom, okay? He even offered money, but they denied it as well. What does that show you, man? What do you think that did to him? That probably broke his character. Probably pissed him off. He was probably weeping a whole lot, all right? Because this devil wouldn't let him go. Mind you, that was only like 100 years ago, man. That's not long, okay? That isn't long, all right? The damn court is still here. It's not that long. It wasn't that long ago, man. Do you know which verse this is?
Yeah, it's 32. Because just because a couple years go by, you get a little job, get a little house, a little car. That was not too long ago, man. You know, there's still people living this day that was actually damn there at that case, man. They're still living.
Yeah, and like you said, February is coming up, so we know that's going to be brought up again, right? And many other cases.
This is Deuteronomy 28:32. It says, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand.
Exactly. So when you're in slavery, there's no power. You got no power. Dred Scott, he got no power. He tried to buy his freedom, it couldn't happen. All right? Go ahead and finish that up.
It reads on, it says, and therefore blacks were unable to petition the court for their freedom. The Dred Scott decision outraged about abolitionists and heightened North-South tensions.
So, as an abolitionist, man, we're outraged, about what happened. Okay, but it's just the point still stands that even if we try to talk it out with you so-called Edomites and look, this is the standard you set up for your country. I'm gonna throw the book at you. This is what the justice that I want, because the color of his skin, and he was a Hebrew Israelite, chiefly a so-called Negro. It still didn't matter, man, because that goes back to that hatred.
That's right.
We
go ahead. The article.
the second one.
Was that the end
Yeah,
of the first one?
no, that's the first
End of the first paragraph.
Read the second paragraph.
It says, second paragraph says, this convoluted case, 1857, both a cause and an effect of sectional conflict, contributed to antebellum political and constitutional controversy. It also made Chief Justice Roger B. Taney seem a satanic